video, we're going to make the trip from Anchorage to Seward using Alaska Cruise Transportation. Coming up right after this. It is just a short few steps outside of the terminal to the meeting point where you'll meet Alaska Cruise Transportation. They have some areas parking. They'll give you information with your reservation about which bus you're on. And you can see that they've been busy loading the luggage. And on the far left side, it's hard to see, but my wife's wheelchair is parked underneath. Now, my wife is somewhat ambulatory, so we were able to climb the few steps. And we're going to go up in just a second and get on the bus with our driver. We're getting everything set up, and we're going to be good to go. You'll notice that it is 4 steps, actually 5 steps, counting the short one from the pavement up. And there's you a good look at the steps going up. And we're going to go up, and they did reserve a seat for Cheryl in the front. So we're going to sit down and get settled in, and we're going to back out of the terminal and start heading toward Seward. And off we go. There's a group of us that are all headed the same direction. We're on our way to join, and somebody was a little late for that bus, but we're on our way to sail on Royal Caribbean's Radiance of the Sea southbound out of Seward. We're headed to Vancouver. But this is where it all started. You come out, and we'll go by this seaplane base over on the left, and one of the busiest seaplane bases in the world, and very definitely the busiest in the United States. And the drive initially, you're going through town. There's not a lot to see. But we get out, we can start to see some of the mountain ranges, some of the beauty that makes up Alaska. As we were traveling through this section, the driver was explaining to us and that the really tall fences that exist either side of this highway are designed to keep moose from crossing the road. Moose are very dangerous when you hit them with a vehicle because their legs are so tall, you wind up with the body of the moose inside on the driver's lap. The area that you see on the right is the Trunagain Arm, and we'll be traveling along this for quite a while. There's some very interesting things that the guides shared about it, and as we find those points, I will share with you. He did tell us that the area that we're in is part of a very important flyway for migratory birds. And he said, in fact, in Alaska in general, that there's 500 million migratory birds use Alaska as a part of their migratory route. As we were traveling along, the driver pointed out that the tide was pretty much out. He said that brings us the opportunity to see eagles, but we kind of miss out on the opportunity to see the beluga whales that inhabit Trunagain Arm. We were discussing with him how much tidal variation there is, and there is approximately 30 to 35 feet of vertical change in the water level in this area of Turnagain Arm. Traveling along, you'll notice on the right there's railroad tracks, and those railroad tracks are part of the Alaskan Railway. They go from Anchorage to either Whittier or to Seward and as far north as Fairbanks. As we were continuing along the Turnagain Arm here, it was interesting. We talked about the dangers that the mud flats off to the right, along the river pose, because sometimes they can be really solid. Sometimes they can have areas that are kind of quicksandy, and what happens is if you step into it, you can become literally trapped in it. And he talked about the fact that in those time frames, the water's raising at about an inch a minute. And so you can imagine being stuck in water that's close to freezing, and it's creeping up your body an inch in a minute, 30 inches. You'd be up to your waist probably, in a half an hour. So very dangerous. You'll see people out sometimes fishing on them. You see a lot of birds and things, though, on the mud flats. They'll be eating either dead birds or they'll be resting from hunting. A lot of eagles in this area. Mountains you see there just to the right of the center line is where Alyeska Ski Resort is. It's, you can say, the big ski destination in Alaska. A lot of people come in to ski here, and of course, obviously, people out of Anchorage ski there as well. We're passing the area now where the original town of Girdwood stood. It's been relocated farther to the left out of sight. But during the Great Alaskan Earthquake in 1964, that town was basically destroyed. And so they moved it inland, and now there's this area where there's nothing much left. We're going to continue down the Turnagain Arm a little bit longer, though the mountains you see in the distance are where the Trunagain Arm ends. And we'll move inland in a minute or so. And as we move inland, we're just kind of cutting across a little piece of a corner. In that area is where the Alaska Wildlife Refuge is. The highway, and we'll pass it here in just a minute, the highway that heads up toward Whittier, and where the train makes its turn to go up toward Whittier. The route really forks because the train either goes to Whittier or it goes to Seward. And then from there, we'll start up towards and into Seward. This is Portage Creek, and it's fed by the Portage Glacier into Portage Lake, and then it runs down this valley. And it's that valley that the highway goes up to get toward Whittier. Now, we've crossed a range of mountains, we've driven by a lot of forest, and we're coming into the town of Seward now. The drive all along there is beautiful. We passed Kenai Lake. We crossed the Kenai River. So we got a chance to see some of the really beautiful parts of the interior of Alaska. It's just that in the bus, the camera got a lot of highway and a lot of trees. But now we're into the outskirts of Seward. We're about 2.5 hours into our bus ride. And in just a minute, you're going to get a chance to get a quick look at the ship. And then we'll turn left and we're going to go down to get to the ship. So there was the ship on the left. And we're coming up on the turn here in just a second. This is a very convenient way to travel from Anchorage Airport to Seward. It worked for us really, really well. Now we're going to pull up here in this parking lot and stop because some on the bus wanted to get some shopping done. So they will get off and go to the store. And once they're done, there's still some more coming off. They are coming off in just a second. And then we're going to head down. They're taking their carry-on, and their luggage is going to get offloaded at the luggage cart. This was, for us, the best choice other than taking the train or taking your cruise line transfer, because there are not any completely accessible ways to get from Anchorage to Seward by bus. All of the bus lines, other than those that are reserved by the cruise line, are not accessible. They're like this bus was, where you have a few steps. The train is totally accessible, but it's about a 4.5 or 5 hour journey compared to a 2.5 hour journey for us. You see, we're pulling in there right there by the ship. And you can see how close we are to the ship in just a second. That building you see right there on the right now, that is the terminal. See the luggage carts straight ahead. The video got small as we pull up to the luggage carts. If your subscribe button is red, do me a favor, click my face. That'll make it change colors and you'll be subscribed. In the box, you'll find some videos that I think you'll enjoy about Alaska.